From the staple of Radio Nigeria Southwest, the time is 2 o'clock.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the last edition of the news on the world today for the week. It is a Southwest network of Radio Nigeria, Ibadan zonal station, comprising news, feature, sports, and entertainment. In the lineup, President Tinubu reaffirms commitment to building prosperous Nigeria. NACON set to airlift pilgrims back home. US-Iran plan to finalize agreement on war. Kenyan court suspends opening of US Ebola quarantine center. Heart of the matter today is on lowering the cost of living. We also have entertainment just for you. My name is Feyi Shara Owomoyela, not reading alone, I'm reading alongside
Tobiloba Delano. You can also listen to us on live streams via www.radionigeriaibadan.gov.ng or watch us live on Facebook at Premier FM 93.5. As we celebrate Democracy Day, let us remember that democracy begins with you. Now the news in details. President Bola Tinubu says his administration has stabilized Nigeria's economy after taking difficult decisions aimed at preventing fiscal collapse and restoring investor confidence. In a nationwide broadcast marking the third anniversary of his administration, President Tinubu said the removal of fuel subsidy and the unification of exchange rates were necessary reforms to rescue the nation from economic uncertainty. The president noted that Nigeria was spending about 18.4 billion naira daily on petrol subsidy before his administration ended the regime, adding that the country also lost trillions of naira to foreign exchange distortions and speculative practices. President Tinubu explained that although the reforms increased the cost of living and placed pressure on many families and businesses, the sacrifices made by Nigerians were beginning to yield positive results. He stated that the stock market had recorded significant growth, while state and local governments now had more resources to invest in developmental projects and social services. The president assured Nigerians that his administration would continue working to reduce food and transportation costs, create jobs, improve security, and ensure that the benefits of economic reforms were felt more directly by ordinary citizens.
Still on the anniversary broadcast, President Bola Tinubu says his administration is making steady progress in infrastructure, education, healthcare and security as part of efforts to build a stronger and more prosperous Nigeria. Addressing Nigerians in the broadcast to mark the third anniversary of his administration, President Tinubu said more than 2,700 kilometers of highways and major roads were currently under construction, reconstruction. The president also disclosed that rail modernization projects, energy investments, and reforms in the oil and gas sector were attracting fresh investments and improving economic activities nationwide. According to him, over 1.5 million students have benefited from the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, while thousands of primary health care centers are being revitalized to improve access to medical services for vulnerable Nigerians. President Tinubu further stated that the Renewed Hope housing program was delivering thousands of housing units in several states and creating employment opportunities for many Nigerians. On security, the president commended the armed forces and security agencies for intensifying operations against terrorists, bandits, kidnappers, and other criminal elements, assuring citizens that his government would not relent until peace and safety were restored across the country.
Speaker of the Ogun State House of Assembly, Mr. Oludaisi Elemide, has congratulated Governor Dapo Abiodun on his 66th birthday, describing him as a visionary leader whose administration has recorded significant achievements across key sectors of the state's economy. In a statement issued by his media aide, Mr. Kunle Idowu, the Speaker praised the Governor's commitment to infrastructure development, education, healthcare, agriculture, and youth development, noting that the people-oriented policies have strengthened governance and promoted sustainable development. Mr. Lemide also commended Governor Abiodun for maintaining a cordial relationship with the legislature, which, according to him, has enhanced democratic governance and accelerated development in Ogun State. He prayed for continued good health, wisdom, and strength for the governor as he continues to lead the state.
The Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention has placed Lagos, Federal Capital Territory, and several other states on high Ebola alert following the outbreak of the deadly Budingio strain of Ebola virus disease in parts of East and Central Africa. In a national public health advisory issued to commissioners for health across the country, the agency warned that Nigeria faces a high risk of importing the virus due to increasing regional transmission, international travels, porous borders, and population movement. The advisory comes amid growing concerns over the spread of the Budimbio variant of Ebola, a rare strain of which where there is currently no approved vaccine or specific treatment. States classified by the NCDC as high risk include Lagos, the FCT, Rivers, Kano, Enugu, Borno, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Taraba, and Adamawa because of their international airports, seaports, border roads, and high human traffic. The agency disclosed that although Nigeria has not recorded any confirmed case, a dynamic risk assessment conducted after the outbreak was declared a public health emergency of international concern, showed that the danger of importation into Nigeria remains high. According to NCDC, 1,077 suspected cases and 247 deaths have already been reported in Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, with a fatality rate of 24.6%.
The governor of Taraba State, Mr. Agbu Kefas, has approved 500 million naira for youth startup support as part of efforts to tackle unemployment and promote economic growth in the state. Mr. Kefas announced this in a statewide broadcast in Jalingo to mark his third anniversary in office, saying the employment program would commence in June 2026. The governor said the initiative formed part of broader reforms targeted at youth inclusion, infrastructure development, and economic expansion. He explained that the government had also commissioned biometric data capturing facilities to create a reliable database for youth development planning and empowerment programs.
The National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON, is set to begin the return of Nigerian pilgrims from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia back to the country on Friday, June 5. The Director of Training and Research of the Commission, Professor Abubakar, disclosed this during a courtesy visit to the Kano State Amirul Hajj Aliyu Ibrahim Abdulkadir in Makkah. Professor Abubakar said the Commission had concluded all necessary arrangements to ensure a smooth, safe and hitch-free return of pilgrims following the completion of the 2026 Hajj rites. He explained that NACAN, in collaboration with state programs welfare boards, airline operators, and Saudi authorities, had put adequate measures in place to guarantee the orderly transportation of pilgrims back to Nigeria. According to him, the return schedule was carefully designed to minimize delays and congestion at airports while ensuring the comfort and safety of pilgrims throughout the exercise.
Thousands of Muslims have started leaving the holy city of Mecca today after having completed the Hajj pilgrimage in scorching heat and despite the shadow of war across the Middle East. According to reports, more than 1.7 million people from 165 countries took part in one of the world's largest religious gatherings this year against the backdrop of the conflict sparked by US-Israeli strikes on Iran. The faithful will today complete the third day of a stoning ritual in the valley of Mina, southeast of Mecca, during which they throw pebbles at concrete pillars symbolizing the devil. The pilgrims will then board buses to the Grand Mosque in Mecca to perform the farewell known as Tawaf, walking 7 times around the Kaaba, the giant black cube at the Grand Mosque. Hajj is one of the 5 pillars of Islam which must be performed at least once by all Muslims who have the means to do so. It involves a series of mostly outdoor rituals over several days.
Kaduna State Governor Haji Ubasani has given each pilgrim from the state performing this year's Hajj 300 Saudi riyals to support their welfare during the pilgrimage. The governor announced the gesture during his visit to Kaduna pilgrims at their tents in Mina, Saudi Arabia. A statement by the chief press secretary to the governor, Mr. Ibrahim Musa, said the amount was equivalent to about 114,000 naira. According to the statement, the governor commended the pilgrims and the management of the Kaduna State Pilgrims Welfare Agency for the successful conduct of the Hajj exercise. He also praised the state Hajj delegation committee for ensuring a hitch-free pilgrimage. Earlier, the executive chairman of the Kaduna State Pilgrims Welfare Agency, Malam Salihu Abubakar, commended the governor for his continued support and commitment to improving pilgrims' welfare.
Meanwhile, the Kano State Amirul Hajj and Emir of Gaya, Alhaji Aliyu Abu Kadri, has expressed concern over what he described as the poor treatment meted out to pilgrims from the state by the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria during the ongoing 2026 Hajj exercise in Saudi Arabia. The Amirul Hajj, who spoke through his deputy, the Emir of Karaye, Alhaji Mahamadu Maharaz, made the complaint while receiving officials of NACON at the Kano Pilgrims Camp in Mina. He said pilgrims from the state had faced several challenges since the commencement of the Hajj operations. The Emir particularly lamented that Kano pilgrims were among the last batch of Nigerian pilgrims to be airlifted to Saudi Arabia, a development he said caused unnecessary hardship and anxiety for intending pilgrims from the state.
This is the world today. The stories the media headlines so far. President Tinubu has reaffirmed commitment to building prosperous Nigeria. NACAN set to airlift pilgrims back home. Still to come, US-Iran plan to finalize agreement on war. Kenyan court suspends opening of US Ebola quarantine center.
Thanks for staying tuned to The World Today. We move on now to the foreign scene. U.S. Vice President, Mr. James Vance, says United States and Iran still need to work out several sticking points before an agreement on the war can be reached. According to Mr. Vance, it was too early to say when or if the two sides would finalize an agreement. U.S. officials had informed newsmen that the two countries had agreed a framework of a deal known as Memorandum of Understanding pending the approval of President Trump and Iran's leadership. According to reports, the framework would allow unrestricted passage through the Strait of Hormuz and give Iran 30 days to remove mines from the narrow shipping passageway.
Still taking the news around the world, the World Health Organization WHO has announced the first recovery of a confirmed Ebola patient in the outbreak raging in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The WHO official Anais Legand said the patient recovered and has been discharged into the community. He said it marked the first among patients who had been confirmed to have Ebola. She stressed that she expected there had been other recoveries among people who have not yet received laboratory confirmation of test results. According to her, WHO had recorded 17 confirmed and 223 suspected Ebola deaths in the DR Congo since the outbreak was declared on May 15. Out of 125 confirmed cases, over 900 suspected cases. No vaccine or specific treatment exists for the Budimbugyo strain of Ebola, which is behind the current outbreak.
Meanwhile, a Kenyan court today temporarily halted the opening of an Ebola quarantine center for U.S. nationals following a petition filed by a rights group. According to U.S. officials, the facility was due to open today in Kenya to quarantine Americans arriving from the Democratic Republic of Congo. The center is said to have 50 isolation beds and be managed by U.S. medical staff at Laikipia Air Base, about 200 kilometers from the capital, Nairobi. According to a court order, a conservatory order was issued restraining the respondents from establishing any Ebola exposure, quarantine, isolation, or treatment facility in Kenya. Kenya has been testing arrivals and has yet to report any case of Ebola in its territory from the current outbreak.
And away from the foreign scenes, Fauzia Kashim of our Current Affairs Unit in today's Heart of the Matter writes on lowering the cost of living.
Rising cost of living has become the major socio-economic reality for the average Nigerian family. It is no longer a distant policy concern discussed only in government offices, economic fora, but a daily struggle in homes, markets, motorparks, workplaces and classrooms. For millions of Nigerians, survival has become the major concern of life. At the center of this crisis is the rising cost of fuel, a problem which has been on over the past decade, from gradual price increase to the subsidy is gone declaration and the recent crisis between the US-Israel war with Iran, which continue to apply pressure on global energy markets. In any economy, energy influences both production and consumption, but in Nigeria, however, fuel is the bloodstream of the country's economic activity, such that once fuel prices rise, the effects spread rapidly across every sector of national life. This is what Nigerians are experiencing today. Since the removal of fuel subsidy, the government has consistently defended deregulation as a necessary economic reform. Impact of this removal is felt most on transportation across major cities. Workers spend an alarming proportion of their income getting to work or fueling their vehicles. When citizens spend half their income moving from one place to another, the economy begins to malfunction as everybody from workers to small businesses bear the brunt. Nigeria's food supply chain depends heavily on road transportation, such that once transportation costs rise, food prices inevitably follow, which is why market prices have become unstable. Poverty is increasingly affecting the working population, as there is now the rise of the new poor, citizens who are employed, productive and educated, yet increasingly unable to sustain basic living standards. This scenario carries consequences, as when the lower middle class begins to collapse, national stability is threatened. When this happens, there is economic frustration, which leads to rising petty crime, mounting mental health pressures, declining workplace productivity, and deepening distrust in public institutions. The questions Nigerians should ask is, what happened to the proceeds of subsidy removal, the funds that were supposed to support quality education, healthcare, and other essential services that will ease the burden on ordinary Nigerians? Economic reforms are often necessary, but reforms that fail to account for human suffering risk losing public legitimacy. No government can sustain public confidence indefinitely if households continue to slip deeper into distress. Although the government had rolled out presidential initiative on compressed natural gas (CNG) for mass transit, conditional cash transfers to vulnerable households, agricultural interventions, and direct financial grants to state government and small businesses. The cost of living crisis is not only about inflation figures or monetary indicators. It is about the trader who cannot restock, worker who cannot commute, the parent who cannot feed a family, and the student who cannot afford transportation to school. Government must do all it takes to urgently ameliorate the hardship, as social peace becomes harder to sustain when citizens feel they are working harder yet living worse.
That script on lowering the cost of living was written by Fauzia Kashim of our current affairs unit and delivered by Stephen Agbaje.
It's time for us to join Rashida Makinde on entertainment news.
Hello listener, it's another Friday. Welcome to the entertainment news for the week. This segment is where we bring gist and apropos from the entertainment industry for your pleasure. Come along with me and be informed and entertained. Thank God it's Friday. The Nollywood star Regina Daniels has opened up about her children with her estranged husband, Senator Ned Nwoko, revealing the last time she saw them and a strong wish to have a daughter. The actress spoke during a chat with TikTok content creator Jarvis inside a car shortly after her Children's Day Carnival on May 27. The actress explained that she had not seen her boys since last year, but remained hopeful that she will reunite with them soon. Regina Daniels mentioned how much they had grown, noting their ages and little milestones that made her emotional. The actress went further to share her thoughts about motherhood, saying she had once ruled out having a girl but now feels strongly about it, but admitted that marriage is no longer on her mind. Veteran Nollywood actress Shafi Bello has stirred heated reactions on social media after sharing her thoughts on survival and choices young women make in today's society. Speaking during an interview on The Mariah Show, the actress touched on issues of self-worth, online validation, and the struggles many face in trying to make ends meet. Shafi Bello explained that women do not need to expose their bodies or chase social media attention to be seen as attractive or successful. She emphasized that the kind of seed people plant in their lives matters greatly, urging young women to focus on dignity rather than cheap popularity. The Nigerian music star Burna Boy is again trending online after a video from late Wednesday night surfaced on social media. The clip, recorded during Eid al-Adha celebrations, showed the Africa giant heading towards the entrance of a club while surrounded by members of his team and security. But what happened within seconds of his arrival has since become the focus of attention online, as Burna Boy was seen making his way into his venue with his entourage around him, and as the singer approached, a disabled man appeared too close to the pathway, was pushed by one of security personnel, and this has been generating negative reactions from the people in the social space. The Nigerian singer Niniola has shared a deeply emotional tribute following the death of her husband, Michael Ndika, who passed away on the 19th of this month. In a post on her official Instagram page, the singer opened up about her pain, describing her late husband as more than just a partner, but the very foundation of her life. In her tribute, Niniola referred to her late husband as her best friend, confidant, pillar, and business partner. She described him as someone who filled every part of her world, despite her personality as a natural loner. According to her, Michael Indika was not just her husband, but also her closest companion in every sense. The singer confessed that she is still struggling to process his death and often finds her waiting for him to walk back through the door, and she is unable to accept that he is gone truly. May his soul rest in peace. Amen. Well, that's a convenient point to end today's edition on Entertainment News for the week. Join us next week for fresh edition. On behalf of the editor, Emilia Ochemudia, I'm Rashida Makinde, urging you to have a lovely weekend. Bye.
Thank you very much for that entertainment gist, Rashida Makinde. And now to end the news on the world today from the stable of Radio Nigeria. A quick look at the major items. President Bola Tinubu says his administration has stabilized Nigeria's economy after taking difficult decisions aimed at preventing fiscal collapse and restoring investor confidence. The National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACAN, is set to begin the return of Nigerian pilgrims from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia back to the country on Friday, June 5. From the foreign scenes, we reported that U.S. Vice President Mr. James Vance says U.S. and Iran still need to work out several sticking points before an agreement on the war can be reached. And a Kenyan court today temporarily halted the opening of an Ebola quarantine center for U.S. nationals following a petition filed by a rights group.
That's it on the world today. Join us on Monday for a fresh edition of the program. Rashida Makinde edited. I am Tobiloba Delano, and from my colleague
Feyi Shara Owomoyela, we say thank you for joining us. Good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.